record on this computer. All right. I am so excited to just be able to share this moment with you all. Of course, this is not the way that we want to do class, but it is what it is. So I want to introduce our guests today. I'm going to start with someone that I know extremely well because I grew up with him, and he's my brother. His name is Mr. Overstreet, M-I-S-T-E-R. You see it? It's his real name, but AKA Mr. Ripley. All right. So he attended Florida A&M University, which is Florida Agricultural Mechanical University in Tallahassee, Florida. He's lived in Atlanta since the mid-90s, right after he left college, and continues to perform with local artists, national artists, artists such as Jermaine Dupri and Debrat, So Def Records. Travels with Debrat. He performs with her. He's recorded his own stuff. He's recorded with her and other artists in the area. They've traveled all over the place to Africa and in Europe and performing. So he's very well versed in the hip hop scene in Atlanta. He's seen it in its heyday and how it has changed over time. He is a performing artist himself. He's created his own videos. He has his own record CDs out, and lots of studio time. As a matter of fact, a couple of my students and I, a couple of seasons ago, went and recorded one of his songs in the studio. And he is an avid videographer and a video editor. So let's welcome him. Yay! All right, Dylan Shoemaker. Yes, Dylan. I don't know if he's still going by Dylan James, but yeah, Dylan.
No, my artist name is now Lil Bill. Yeah, but I think that for later.
Yeah, if Dylan would keep in touch a little bit more, I would have known that. But anyway,
right.
Late as always to the party. Anyway, back to Dylan. Dylan lives in Atlanta. Dylan is one of my choir sons. He is an avid performer in Atlanta and across the East Coast. He's traveled up and down the East Coast performing. He's recorded. He's done his own videos. He is now a student at Georgia State University, and he just recently wrote a thesis paper on hip hop. And when I saw that, I was like, I have to invite him. So I just invited him yesterday, asked him to come on so we can talk to us a little about his research and his paper. Just a quick little thing about Dylan. I'm gonna tell this story, and y'all gonna not.
Yeah.
So Dylan came, I think you didn't transfer to the school. Dylan was in 8th grade, and his choir teacher in middle school told me, one of my students is coming to your school. And I was like, oh, okay. So she was like, oh, he can rap. And I was like, okay, well, what's his name? Dylan Shoemaker. And I'm like, that doesn't sound like a rap name, but anyway. So I think when I met Dylan, I said, oh, so you're Dylan. And I said, you can't rap. Little skinny white boy with the straggly hair, the stereotype. I stereotyped him. I've told him this story several times. And when I heard him rap, I had to apologize to him because it was so dope. So dope. And I think when Chris Cross, what was the guy's name, what was the one that died?
I really can't remember, but what I can say to touch on that little bit is I appreciated you giving me opportunities to perform and express myself the way that I was trying to, and not necessarily like singing because I wasn't comfortable, but I still wanted to perform and stuff like that.
Yeah, because Dylan couldn't sing. Dylan couldn't sing at all, and
I got better, but at the time. Confidence played a big part in it too. So it's like you helped me, as a kid, be able to be confident to go out on stage and stuff like that. Even when I mess up, it's still like I keep going, So.
Well, Dylan, we decided to. I think we were preparing our spring show, and the guy from Chris Cross had just died, and we were like, we gotta put this in the show. And I didn't know anybody that could rap it. I was like, well, what about Dylan? Dylan, can you do it? And Dylan came out there, man, and he rocked it. So it was so lit. I think I may have that video somewhere. He came out with, because Chris Cross wore their clothes backwards. He came out with the backwards shirt. And I think that first night you forgot the lyrics. and
Yeah,
you
that's
just
what I was
started
saying.
freestyling.
Freestyle on stage, and it's, it's kept going. It was like that stuff like that. Cause now sometimes I might mess up on stage for real, but it's like moments like that where it's like I learn how to work through the mess ups, like the show must go on. You know what I mean? So
Listen, Dylan rocked it, so it was crazy. And I think one more thing about Dylan, we're going to get into the meat of this, is I took Dylan with us to Carnegie Hall.
but yeah, that was a good time.
And Dylan looked at me and said, I'm a 16-year-old performing on stage at Carnegie Hall, and I'm going to come back here and perform by myself one day. And of course, y'all know me, Katie, y'all know me. I was like, you know.
We was also excited because Beyonce had performed on the same stage, so everybody was excited about that too. So,
Everybody was like, Beyonce's sweat is on this stage.
Yeah.
Like, we touching her sweat. I was like, okay, that's gross. So, all right. The students, so Mr. and Dylan, this is my May term class. It is topics in music history. The topic is basically on the evolution of hip hop in Atlanta, specifically in Atlanta, and how the civil rights movement and the social justice movements like Black Lives Matter, maybe some of the LGBTQIA movements, any other social justice movement, feminist movement, how it has impacted the scene in hip hop. But we can touch on that if we want to, but I want to really I want my brother to tell us what has been your experience in Atlanta since you've been in Atlanta as far as the hip hop scene. How has it changed since you've been there?
It's changed. First off, how you all doing? It's good to meet everybody. And thanks Rico for having me on here.
Okay, so hold on. My nickname is Rico. Okay, just so y'all don't, okay, so you won't be freaking out. If you're my family, you call me Rico, but you all still call me Dr. Roberts.
Who is that?
I'm gonna fight you. Go on, Mr.
Who's that? Cheyenne? That's how you say his name?
Yeah.
He's gonna be the first one to call you Rico. Wow.
Yes. And then Sadie's gonna be next, but go on.
Okay, yeah, Sadie's next. But yeah, thanks for having me on here. The Atlanta scene has changed quite a bit since I first got down here because everything is technical now, so it's changed. Like, well, the first thing immediately is noticeable is that you don't have to search addresses and doors to go to knock on and stand outside for like hours and begging for somebody to let you in the door in the studio. You don't have to do that anymore. Now you can just DM somebody and tag them with your music and they can hear you that way. When before, of course, when I first got here, you had to actually find somebody who happened to know an address where they were at, and then you would go down there like stalkers and stand outside in the parking lot and stand outside the door and kind of rap and audition for people that are coming in and out of the door and hoping one of them will bring you inside. That's one thing as far as from an artist perspective. The other thing, as far as the music, it's just a whole lot more artists now. Like, it's just like so many artists. It's like, it's not even fair anymore. It's like everyone is doing music. So it's not special anymore. So now when you're doing your music, it's all about here in Atlanta as far as who you're tagged with, which branch are you linked with, who's co-signing you and kind of bringing you in. Are you with this camp over here? Are you with that camp over there? So that's kind of like how it is. You got all these different cliques now, and then they're just kind of birthing new artists up under them. So when you have somebody like a Young Thug or somebody, then you have somebody coming up under him, like a Lil Baby, and then it's a whole other artist that come up under him, and then you got a whole nother crew like your like P and QC, them over there. So they'll have a gang of artists that are coming up under them. So it's all about which clique is pulling you in now, and it's so many artists and everybody's doing it. So business wise, everyone here is doing is doing like a open mic, or they're doing a showcase, or they're doing some sort of networking event that you can attend to. It's lots of opportunity, but it's also saturated a lot. Like, it wasn't that bad when I first got here to Atlanta, which was like I got here a long time ago. I got here when Tupac died. That's how I remember when I got here. Tupac died on a Friday. Next Friday, I was in Atlanta. Moved from Virginia down to Atlanta around that time, and it's been evolving like rapidly ever since.
So what can you tell? We talked a little bit about trap music. It's really big in Atlanta, right?
Right.
And we know that that's kind of the birthplace of trap and
Yeah.
crunk with Lil Jon.
Yeah.
So tell us about what is special, and Dylan, if you want to chime in on that too, what is special about trap music? Or what's different, or what's the appeal of this type of music?
Trap is real. Trap is reality rap. So to touch on what you talked about earlier, and then I want to shout out to Dylan as well, as far as that performance that he did for Chris Cross. The timing of it was like crazy. I had just left Chris Kelly's funeral, actually, and it was a very down time for a lot of people in the industry, but especially So Def, the family over at So Def. So Dylan, I want to let you know that I took that performance that I had that you had showed me, and I went out on the road with a guy named DJ Navs. DJ Navs was Criss Cross DJ for years. He's on all of their albums. They toured with Michael Jackson. Like, that's one of my partners. Like, and I'd go out on the road with him, and I showed him him and Chris Kelly are like this. Like, they used to actually live together at one point, like were roommates, and it brought tears to his eyes, but he was happy about it, that somebody was recognizing it. And I showed it to him, and it meant a lot to see Dylan with that performance and having that crowd out there doing that Criss Cross song at that time. That was huge.
Appreciate that.
But yeah, to touch on that, Criss Cross was like one of your first mainstream artists that came out of Atlanta, but you didn't really link Criss Cross with Atlanta. Like, they were from here, but they didn't really put on for Atlanta, like as far as landmarks, as far as the culture here in Atlanta, the way that the Dungeon family did when they first came out.
I was just going to bring up the Dungeon family. That's really like foundationally what set the scene for where Atlanta's at right now. Is what we got from Goody Mob and Outkast. Because Future, he actually grew up around the Dungeon family. So, you know, it's just direct lineage of inspiration and culture, you know, that has shaped the Atlanta scene and what made trap music so influential. It's reality. Like, I'll speak on my the thesis of my paper in a second, but it kind of ties into what this is it's like the reality is what for these artists is what trap music is talking about, like the content, like selling drugs to get by, or, you know, the things that the media could warp, you know what I mean, to create stereotypes, but generally it is reality for, you know what I'm saying, the people that are coming from that culture. I mean, it can definitely be emulated, and you know, people can imitate it, but the artists like T.I. or, you know, the people that originally like that created trap music, like, it was reality. It was what they were around and being exposed to, and that definitely still leaks into what it is today. Because it's like, I'll just speak about my paper. We can give it back to him because my paper really kind of ties into that. So, because it has to do with the approach to listening to music, or trap music specifically. Really.
Mm-hmm.
Let me tell you from my personal experience with trap music. All right, so you have your music, like you had Dungeon Family, Outkast, Goody Mob that came out, and it was some good hip hop music, and it was the essence of Atlanta as far as had substance, it had a message and everything, as far as more of a fun, positive tip. But here, living in Atlanta, me personally, I would go to these traps, you know, looking for things, all right? So when you go there into those neighborhoods, okay, these type of neighborhoods, they're run down, they're boarded up. You see all types of types of poverty that's around there. People are kind of running up to your cars. You got like fiends and things like that running up to your cars, homeless people coming up to you looking for a handout. Like when you look at these areas, when you go off of Bankhead and you round there off of Simpson, and you over there in Zone 3, or you down there in 6, and you down there in College Park, and you off of Godby Road, Old National, like you go down to those areas, and when you look at those blocks and those neighborhoods, and you see the people out there that are kind of like in the struggle, that is not no crisscross music that you're looking at when you see that type of area, or even the fun kind of vibrant thing that Outkast even brought to it, and the positive conscious mindset that Goody Mob brought to it. What you saw was rubber bands, money, drug transactions, low cars with paint, rims, loud booming music. You saw the streets. And that's what you have quite a bit of in Atlanta when you ride around in some of these neighborhoods. So it spoke to that. When you hear trap music, it sounds like what you're looking at in those neighborhoods, in that trap area. So that's why it makes so much sense, because those people that are coming out and never had an opportunity to get anything else, all they had was music. So they sold drugs and got them amount of money to do some music, get in the studio, and they came up out of that environment. So their music represented that environment that they came out of. And to be honest with you, all of that music broke in the strip clubs. Like all of the records broke in the strip clubs in Atlanta. So if you're in Atlanta and you got a record that wants to kind of pop off,
Magic City.
You're in Magic City, you're in Blue Flame.
Not that I know. Hold on. Not that I know. I just know the names of it.
Yeah.
Dandridge, I see you.
Blue Flame, Magic City, Strokers, all of these strip clubs is where the DJs come and break the record. It is not odd to go in a strip club and see Mary J. Blige standing right next to you, or Diddy standing next to you, or hell, even Eminem up in Blue Flame with Dr. Dre. Like, it's like you're in there listening to what's next. Atlanta's just way different as far as how they approach their music and break these records. So that trap, when it took off, and that's the reason why it's still relevant to this day, because the South is completely taking over the music industry, and what's heading it right now is that trap music, which is reality rap. People want to hear real. They don't want to hear anything sugar-coated. They want it raw. And that's how kind of like trap took out. Crunk was a little before, or a little during that.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of came in there to kind of get people on the fun side of your trap. So the fun side of the trap, or even not so much fun, just the rowdy mosh pit side of the trap, was like your crunk.
Well, I want to go back to something you said. I'm gonna tap on Dylan for a second here in a minute, but I wanted to say, oh, wait a minute, I tapped on something here. You mentioned something about trap. I was a question I had in my head, now I can't remember. Was it? Oh no! I know what it was. We had talked a little bit about Outkast. There was a couple of videos and articles that I've read about Outkast as being the premier group duo in Atlanta that kind of put Atlanta on the map as far as rap and hip hop, the hip hop movement. And that whole, was it 94, 95 at that award show when he was like, oh, the South have something to say. Were you living there during that time?
95. I had got here right after that. That was August 1995. I watched that award show when Andre from Outkast got up there and damn near teary-eyed and was mad because people was booing them for winning the award in New York. And that's when he said that famous statement that lives to this day, man, saying the South got something to say. And from then on, it was over. Like the South completely took over, and it hasn't given it back at all.
Right. So you don't really, I think like people are saying now, and I moved to Atlanta in 2004, but even before that, they were saying that Atlanta has become now almost synonymous to being the Black Hollywood, as far as movie industry. But before that, it was really the hip hop cultural movement had really started to blossom and spark that. You had a lot of artists moving to Atlanta because they wanted to be a part of that little sound and stuff. So I really, I never thought of it, the trap, the way that you just explained it, and it kind of being the grassroots of what people are actually living in right now. The music that you hear, that thump, that boom, that's what they're actually doing outside in the streets.
That's what they're actually doing outside in the streets. And to be honest with you, this thing has a lot of layers. Now we're getting a lot of the surface, but even beneath that, what was happening is Freaknik brought the crowd to Atlanta. Freaknik brought the industry, the music industry to Atlanta. Freaknik was from about 92 to 98, around those years.
So hold on a minute. Raise your hand, click the hand button if you heard of the term Freaknik. Andrew's going to be the first one. And I know because she's really into it. Raise your hand on here if you know you've heard. Avery, you've heard of Freaknik? Okay, cool. Anybody else? Kai says she's heard of it. Anybody else heard of Freaknik? So it's kind of similar. Oh, you don't know how to raise your hand. Well, that's fine. So explain to us what the Freaknik, well, as cleanly as possible.
Imagine Freaknik is like your pep rally at school for the big homecoming game. And everybody in the city is coming to that game for the rivalry, and it's going completely nuts. That's the clean way. Second level is, imagine spring break with no beach. You just brought the spring break, instead of to the water in Daytona or down in Panama City, instead of going there for spring break, or Virginia Beach, wherever you at, instead of going there, you came to Atlanta, in the streets of Atlanta. So you got hundreds of thousands of people in the city of Atlanta coming from California, Texas, Chicago, from New York, Connecticut, from Florida, all the way in this one city. And they brought music industry events here. So you had this thing called Jack the Rapper. Jack the Rapper was like a big conference, kind of like the A3C that they have here in Atlanta now. So you had Jack the Rapper when all of your popular musicians would come here to Atlanta, and they would be in a conference and they would do shows. So when they came here, that's when the Renaissance was happening, around that time between 94 and 97, where everything started popping off and everybody started moving here. Me personally, I came to visit Freaknik, and I was like bugged out when we went into this neighborhood. There's a rapper from the West Coast, old school rapper. His name's Too Short. He's been rapping for years. Too Short has a mansion off of Cascade Road. And I had a friend who knew him then directly. So we went to his house, his mansion he had off Cascade. And when we went through the neighborhood with all these other mansions, I saw Black people walking out of the house, checking the mailbox. And I couldn't believe it. I was just like, I went back to Virginia, was like, Black people living in mansions in Atlanta, I'm moving there. Like, I just couldn't believe it. Like, it was actually possible. It was real that you could live in a mansion. So I was just like, and that's how kind of like everybody else moved here to Atlanta. But then with everybody moving here, you also had your street element of people moving here. So groups like your hustlers and your drug dealers, all of them came here. So that's when BMF popped off. So this Black Mafia family has a great amount of credit that has to be given to trap music, because when BMF came here to Atlanta, they took over the streets with the drug dealings. They got behind artists like Blue Da Vinci, got behind Young Jeezy, and they were here and they were just throwing money everywhere, spending money here, there, and it brought everybody to Atlanta to see what these people were doing. And the trap music was the soundtrack to everything going on in Atlanta with BMF, and that's how it just grew and grew and grew. So
now the BMF crew is no longer together, right?
Oh yes, they are.
They are. Didn't the founders go to jail?
Yes.
Yeah, one of them just got out though, like yesterday or 2 days ago.
Yeah, they're still here, and a few of them, of the top people that was locked up, they're getting out now. Like, they're out, and of course Big Meech is still inside, but his brother is getting ready to get out soon, and then he's probably not too far behind. He probably may have 5 to 10 years and he'll be out. Bottom line is, the organization is a $250 million organization out here in these streets, and their presence is still relevant today, still here in Atlanta, like, period.
So basically, for those of you that probably don't know, you know, they were funding this rap phenomenon by selling drugs.
They're one of the main reasons a lot of hip hop artists today get incriminated with the RICO charge, because of the way they were using the drug money to fund.
Say that again? The what charge?
The RICO.
Like racketeering.
The RICO charge.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, explain, what does that mean?
So basically, it's like, you know, when you have an organization that's doing criminal activity, but you're using the money that's obtained illegally to fund the artists and the music videos and stuff like that, and or you use the money from the music to fund the drugs. You see what I'm saying? So it's like if you misuse the funds from either or, and you tie both businesses, illegal and legal, like the music with the drugs, when you tie that in, you can get hit with a racketeering charge. And that's kind of why.
On top of the distributing drug charges.
Yeah, because overall it's like a cover up.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
like
Dylan,
like embezzling and things like that.
Right.
Dylan, so tell us as so you're what 22 now?
Yeah, I'm 23. I had just turned on it this past month.
See if you would keep in touch. People will. So 23, when I met you, you was 15, 16 years old.
Yeah.
How and you grew up in Atlanta, down in Fayette County and Clayton, or where down that way. Tell us your experience as living in Atlanta, which is predominantly Black, as a Caucasian young man trying to get into this industry. What has been your experience? And let me start off with this. What drew you as a Caucasian guy to this phenomenon of hip hop? And then what has been your experience as a non-African American?
All right. So I formally introduce myself to everyone. My name is Dylan Shoemaker. My artist name is Lil Vil. I'm also an English major at Georgia State, and I had just wrote a paper that I'm gonna share a synopsis with in just a second. But to touch on that, what drew me to hip hop and my experiences growing up so far, one is it was just my environment. Like, I'm a product of my environment. So I even have family members that in my own family that are white that rap. You know, they don't take it as serious as me, but it's still something that would be going on in my household when I was a kid. And I think that's just because of the level of exposure being in Atlanta. I'm from Atlanta, and so is my family. From Clayton, Fayette, and then actually from College Park, East Point, etc. So what I'm trying to say, going up, I didn't realize I was gravitating towards something that wasn't mine to ever claim ownership over. Because there's a thing where it's as a white man, I'm a guest in the house of hip hop. You know, that's a conversation that's been brought up with Eminem and stuff like that. And the thing is, it's a level of respect and consideration for the culture. Is for instance, Malcolm X, he has words where it's as a white man, what does a white man look like trying to be the leader of the NAACP? It doesn't make sense, because if that's not what it was founded for. So it's in hip hop, I know that I'm a guest, and as a guest, my point is I want to show complete respect for it, because I fell in love with something that I didn't quite understand, because I fell in love with it at such a young age. But as I started maturing and educating myself, I realized it was deeper than the music. It's political, it's, and I think I'll just use that to segue into the paper that I wrote. I wrote a paper recently for my one of my classes at school, at my university. It's basically why hip hop deserves cultural relevantism when it's being portrayed in the media, and how the dynamic of the media industry, or the media outlets and the music industry, they feed off of each other. The music industry, it pushes the themes like sex and misogyny and drugs and stuff like that. It pushes that because it knows that's what sells. But then you have, like I said, they feed off of each other. You have the media then taking that from without cultural context, and then that's the information that's projected to the world, and then that's how stereotypes and stuff like that are created. Because I'm trying to sum it all up. It's a very long research paper, but I transitioned into the paper of how hip hop is actually, how he said it's reality rap, how he referred to trap. Hip hop, once you, how I said, I didn't realize I was into the culture. It became my lens, how I view the world. Hip hop became my lens for it. So it's for instance, Tupac has an album called The Don Killuminati 7-Day Theory, and then it's based off of the principalities of Machiavelli, an Italian author from centuries ago. But I was introduced to world literature and pieces of literary works that are thought-provoking and stuff through hip-hop. Like hip-hop was my introduction to like strengthening my knowledge as an individual. So being like a student at Georgia State, I'm reading these books that Tupac introduced me to. Or for instance, Sun Tzu has a book called The Art of War. People like Mike Tyson have read it, etc. But Bone Thugs and Harmony has an album called The Art of War. So as a kid, I'm listening to that album and I'm taking what I'm taking from it. But as I got older and I actually read the actual, the book, I could see how that album was structured based off of the book. So hip hop becomes like a way to perceive reality. So it kind of like, it's not this, the way the media portrays it as just being, like I said, misogynistic and like just drug oriented and just kind of like ignorant. That's not necessarily true when you realize that it's a way to perceive reality. And then for people that, so I don't confuse people, there's a TED Talk by a Wu-Tang member named GZA. He explains how he has an after-school program that was created to use hip-hop's musical structure to help students academically understand the information that they're being taught in the classroom. For instance, like back in the day, to relate it is like the study of Ebonics. They used it in Oakland. There was a school in Oakland that had a pilot program for the kids, for their communities. Like they were trying to standardize English in the classroom, but some students, they're coming up in their basically their upcoming is they didn't speak standard English at home. They spoke Ebonics. So this program at the school started using Ebonics to help them learn their classroom material. So if you use Ebonics in the same situation as like hip hop, or like interchange them, you can use hip hop as a medium to express knowledge that's deeper than just music and entertainment. It actually can be used in classrooms and help further education. And
tell us again, what was the name of that TED Talk?
It was a Wu-Tang member named GZA. He had a TED Talk. I'm not sure the exact name, but if you look up TED Talk and then GZA, it explains how hip hop can be coming from certain communities. Like for instance, in the TED Talk, he uses an example where as a child, he's not the way the community set up, like he doesn't have access to good funding schools. Like he doesn't have access to this these ways to help him increase his education, but he still has questions like, why do I get shocked when I move my socks on the floor and touch the door? Like he has these thought-provoking things, but he doesn't have the resources to obtain it. But as he got older, he realized hip-hop was what was helping him want to learn more and obtain knowledge. So he indirectly realized it was his lens. And I can use that to relate to what I was saying, is like, hip-hop isn't just about portraying images like sex and drugs and stuff like that. Now, it's reality for some people, and that goes back to the cultural relevantism. It's like, if you're coming from an outside perspective and you're not in this culture of being outside and hearing the beats, you know what I'm saying, in the cars driving by, or being exposed to death early on, or poverty, or drug use, or drug addiction, you're not going to understand that. You know what I mean? So when you have the media attacking these artists, for instance, like NWA receiving letters when they had the song Fuck the Police, you know, they received letters from the FBI saying, yo, you can't perform this song, but that's a constant, freedom of speech is a constitutional right. But then, you know, you have themes like sex that do sell, but then if it's not what fits the status quo of the, how we've been saying it in my classroom, the whitewashed industry, you have like 2 Live Crew getting arrested for lyrics too explicit, or too for obscenity. You know what I mean? Because it's not fitting what they deem sells sexually or explicitly. So that's kind of like what the paper is all about, is just explaining how, like, if you're not coming from the culture, you should judge it appropriately from like, it's just not, without cultural context, you don't know what you're talking about.
Basically, and I'm glad you said that, because I think when we approach it that way, and you and Mr. deal with the hip hop aspect, I deal with the Negro spiritual aspect of the cultural relativism, right. And it's how we can, what you mentioned about, and I'm going to definitely quote you on this. I'm going to put this in the paper one day. I am a guest in the house of hip hop.
Right.
I really like that because it shows, and when you have that mentality, like I'm not a part of this culture, I didn't grow up with this cultural norm. So then being a guest and realizing that and acknowledging that really helps to prevent appropriation.
Right. Because there's definitely been situations in the industry, like a few years back at the Grammys, I believe there was a situation where like Kendrick Lamar had an album that was just undeniably like it deserves the Grammy, but then you had a white male artist, Macklemore, receive the Grammy over Kendrick, when obviously the culture sway was towards Kendrick, but the nominee or the way they did the nominations, it gave it to Macklemore, and that was just like a slap to the face of the culture, just like because it came from like it just wasn't understanding. It's not what wanted to be portrayed or like yeah.
And he acknowledged that. Macklemore acknowledged that.
Yeah, he did acknowledge it, but at the same time, I feel like being like I wouldn't have received the award personally. Now this is my personal opinion, or I would have done something like I would have put a Kanye or a ODB on stage and would have like actually made a statement, because hip hop can be political.
Yeah. I think one of the things that, I mean, my brother and I, we grew up we're children of the 70s and the 80s. So yes, we're not young spring chickens in this thing. So when I remember I wasn't a progenitor of hip hop. I wasn't really into it. Now my brother was into the whole rapping, beatboxing, all of that recording stuff, having the refrigerator boxes outside trying to dance and that. I wasn't as into it as he was. So we've kind of, but I've observed how hip hop has changed over time, and you wouldn't dare back in the 80s see a white artist, that it wasn't a thing. Right. It just wasn't a thing. And it, and I remember I read somewhere.
You didn't start seeing white artists till it was noted that it was a marketable genre.
Marketable genre.
Yeah.
And too, I think there.
Well, you did have them, a couple white artists.
Yeah, you're gonna have some people in the culture, but it's like generally
they weren't hitting like the ones we see now.
Like you had, exactly. It definitely wasn't like it was now. But like Beastie Boys,
right,
definitely set the trail. You had Third Base, that's another one. And you had a couple in there, but they were from and were co-signed by someone deeply already in the culture to kind of put them out. Now it's like you don't have to have a cosign.
You don't have to have a cosign, and that's what's crazy.
You can be Lil Pump and you good. You can just come out and just do whatever.
So now I would like, because the students are supposed to, and I don't want to spend, we got about 20 more minutes left. I want the students to ask their questions if they have any questions, which they should. So if you want to unmute yourself and and then just ask your question. If our guests are not able to answer it, then we'll just research it and figure it out. But yeah, go ahead on and see what questions that you may have about the hip hop in general, or specifically hip hop in Atlanta when it deals with, cultural sensitivity, social justice stuff, civil rights movement, anything dealing with hip hop. So go ahead. Who wants to go first? Dandridge, your hand was up. Oh, okay. I guess it wasn't. Not all at one time.
Can you hear me?
Who is this? Oh, Kai. Go ahead.
My question's for Dylan.
All right.
With everything that has been going on as far as racial tension within the media, and even going back as far as like with rap groups, as far as like NWA and other major rap groups or individuals who have addressed like racial issues, have you ever felt uncomfortable being in an environment where this has been brought about?
No. I feel uncomfortable for the way things are, but that pushes me to try and make things the way that I feel like I can from my specific roles in life to make things at least right in my, the best that I can do. But at the same time, I am comfortable with talking about topics like this. Like, and I want to create more platforms to do so. Because that's the thing with my music. Like specifically with my music, I talk about what my reality is. It might come off misogynistic sometimes. It might come off like this, but the reality is I'm out there with organizations. Like I volunteer to help lead troubled youth. Like I do these other things that basically like the money that anything that I get from music, I use it to build other platforms to help people. Like so that's kind of my like view on everything. It's like any role that I could play to help within my means, I'm gonna do so because I do feel comfortable with what some people might feel uncomfortable discussing in terms of like racial tension and stuff like that. Because I'm not gonna say I'm the bridge to the gaps, you know what I'm saying? Because it takes generations to bridge these gaps. You know, it doesn't take one person or anything like that. But I feel like the more people in my positions that are comfortable with taking on the questions and wanting to give a positive and constructive answer, you know, that's progressive and moving forward, like I feel like that's the best way to handle it.
Okay. Ali, your hand is up.
Dylan, do you feel like people don't take you seriously because you're white?
Nah, that's I mean maybe from like again it's kind of like the whole point of what I was saying is like people they tell me when people don't necessarily know me, they say I speak a certain way or whatever, but at the end of the day I'm an English major at Georgia State about to graduate. Like when people don't, and that's the thing, like I don't have that problem. I'll just say that. Like people take, like if they know me or if I have interviews on YouTube or I have articles that you could read about me, and it's like, what I mean by that is people take me serious. Like I'm never put in a position where it's like I'm being made fun of or I'm being mocked. Of course, there's always fun and games when it comes to stuff. Like I'm not saying I can't take a joke, but at the same time, like I'm taking serious because that's my message. Like it's the things that I stand for isn't a joke. You know what I mean? Like I want to see social change. I want to see certain things. So it's like I try to like not allow people to see me in certain lights that would, you know, put me up for set me up for failure in terms of like being made fun of or like just not having the right facts to support what I'm saying, or you know what I'm saying? So yeah. But generally no, I don't have the problem. People take me serious.
I remember, I will say this about Dylan. Dylan has been, the way you see him talking now, this is the exact way that he was talking since freshman year. Like the way that he expressed himself, he has always been that way. I will testify that it's not a front.
Right.
He has always been that expressive, that passionate. He's been very serious about his music for sure. He doesn't play about that. So I know personally and professionally, I've seen him perform. I've read interviews and magazines that he's given. I know that he's very serious about what he's doing, and I highly respect him for that. So yeah, I don't think anybody was making fun of him. So I have a question here. It's questions for Mr. Was there a person, movement, or specific situation that inspired you to pursue a music career?
Yeah, actually, okay, Ayana, yes, it was. Actually, it was the first time I performed, and it was at church. And a friend of mine had wrote a song for us to perform at church. And this was the first time I had ever performed any type of rap, anything. And it was in our church was a very large church, and there was a lot of people in there. And we performed. Everybody was on their feet, and they loved it. And then afterwards, we were kind of getting congratulated, and everybody was saying, "Oh, you did such a good job. That was great." It was me and a friend of mine that performed, and they asked, and they said, "So who wrote that?" And my friend was the one who wrote the entire song. So he was like, "Yeah, I wrote that." But it was like, "Oh, you're so talented," or whatever the case. And I was just like, "Wow, well, it was a cool performance, but I didn't get any kind of credit because he wrote the whole thing." So I went home. And used my mother's word processor and hid in the closet because we weren't allowed to really listen to rap music in my house because we grew up in a Christian household. So I hid in the closet with a word processor, and it took me about 3 hours to write what is probably like a 12-bar verse. Like it took a long time until I got it down the way I liked it, and then I took it to school. And I went to the lunchroom at the lunch table with my friends, and I rapped a verse, and then they liked it. And then I did it again in the next class, and then they liked it. Then I got written up for writing rhymes in class, and they put me in ISS. Then I was in ISS and got caught writing rhymes in ISS. They kicked me out of ISS, put me in OSS. So in school suspension, out of school suspension for writing rhymes now. This is writing rhymes. When I got back, my guidance counselor asked me, you know, you should use this in a positive way. If you're going to write rhymes, why don't you write one for our prom? We're having a prom. Can you do a little jingle about the prom? So I did a jingle about the prom. And I don't know how school is now, but when I was in high school, they allowed you to get on the intercom in the top of the morning where everybody's sitting in the classroom, they're doing their announcements and all of that. That's when I came in and spit a verse over the intercom for the whole school about prom. And that whole entire day in between class, the lunch, after school, everywhere, I got nothing but like, everybody was like bigging me up. And I said, oh, I love this feeling. I got to keep doing this. I want to do this at every level, keep going. And so from then it was just like I just wanted to keep going with it. So that's what made me pursue it. It was I found something that I was good at, and it felt good because I couldn't play sports good, you know.
He had stopped playing in the band.
I stopped playing in the band because I didn't like the band at that school I was at, so I quit. I was playing tuba at first, but I quit. And I wasn't so good at anything. But once I found out I was like very popular and good for rapping, that was it. It's like, all right, this is just what I want to do. So yeah, that was kind of like the inspiration behind me wanting to pursue it. But I'm writing a book. It's called On the Inside Looking In. And it talks about how, like Dylan's point, how my life has been viewed through the lens of hip hop. Like every decision I make has to do if whether or not hip hop music is going to be involved. So what I want to go to college for, is it going to be hip hop there? Is it going to be music there? Can I do that? If not, I'm not going to college. I don't want to do that. Do I want to be a doctor? No, I can't rap. And then, I mean, I was told total tunnel vision with hip hop. So that's just what it was.
Okay. Dandridge has a question for both. Do you think that the misogyny in rap music will ever fully go away?
No.
No.
No. Because it sells.
Yeah,
it sells.
Because it sells. You could use the situation with Nelly. He had a song called Tip Drill, you know, and then with Tip Drill, they had a situation in Spelman where Spelman was having a bone marrow drive, and it was sponsored by Nelly, but the Spelman women, they were like, no, we don't want Nelly to come to the bone marrow drive because of the song Tip Drill and its misogynistic themes. But
well, for people that don't know, Spelman College is a HBCU, all-female black school downtown Atlanta. It's the sister school to Morehouse College. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, you good. What I'm saying though is, so basically they didn't want Nelly to come to his own bone marrow drive because his misogynistic lyrics weren't basically welcome. But Nelly's argument was the same people that are arguing in a school and scholarly environment, once they leave that environment, they're going straight to the club and listening to the songs that they're complaining about, and they're still they're not doing anything to actually fix it. So
was that the song about the credit card between the butt cheeks?
Yes.
I remember that. And it's a good thing that you brought that up. Yes, because we talked about that in some of my other classes before. This I don't think we talked about it in here, but how consumers drive the industry. It can have possibly drive the industry, and I think that people are not taking that to point. I think that was a good point. That although I don't like the song personally, but I understand Nelly's point. Right. Like you're being hypocritical. Like in the public eye, you're like, this is wrong, this is wrong. But back in your house, you know, you dropping like it's hot and twerking and doing all kind of stuff with that. You know, bands will make her dance and that kind of stuff. But you're not. But in the public eye, you put up this front like it's so wrong, misogynistically, it's so wrong. But you buying it, you downloading the song on your phone, or you watching the videos, and you're letting the artists and the production company know, I agree with this message, and keep pumping that kind of stuff because we're going to keep buying it. So I agree. Let me keep going with the questions. I don't want to run out of time. Let's see. Oh, we're almost here, Jelani. 2 questions for Mr. What do you think is the father or godfather of trap music? And what are some of the biggest musical projects to come out of Atlanta that have influenced the culture?
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. I like that one. It's argumentative. It's very, very argumentative of who you would classify as a father or godfather of trap music. It can be argued, I'll tell you that. But if I had to say the first and biggest impact as far as trap, when I first heard it, it was T.I. T.I. had some mixtapes in the streets, and it was called trap music. With PSC, his Pimp Squad Click crew, and he was doing a lot of the trap music stuff. And then after that, Jeezy dropped the Drunk with Drama, and it was over. So between Jeezy and T.I., you kind of like, I would say it's a tie almost, because they both kind of like had big so music projects. That trap music by T.I. with the Rubber Band Man, you know, that had to be one of the biggest albums that dropped during that time. And also that Gangsta Grillz, Young Jeezy, had to be like, that was like the main soundtrack for the whole BMF thing and everything, as far as projects that came out of Atlanta, as far as trap music is concerned. But
well, even the research in the article I was reading, it mentioned not just one person. They said there's a triangle. It was Young Jeezy. It was I wish I would have looked at the article. I know T.I. was one. I think Young Jeezy was another. It was somebody else. They was like, it was a triangle of people. They can't really decide on who was the one that actually
kicked it off.
Yeah. But it was between a couple of people, and those two for sure. If I found the article, I'll share it with you.
Ghetto Mafia was another one too. Ghetto Mafia, they're a group from the East Side. They have some underground type of music that didn't really pop like Jeezy and T.I., but they can be argued as the people that came before them. They just didn't make it big like Tip and Jeezy did. But you'll get the argument a lot between Tip and Jeezy as far as being the people who really kicked down the door for the trap.
Okay. So Samantha has a question here, and we'll throw this off on Dylan first. What have you learned from being an artist that has had the biggest impact on you?
From being an artist like myself?
Yeah. So you being an artist, what has really impacted you? What have you learned?
I mean, the coronavirus going on, so it kind of contradicts what I'm about to say, but really just connecting with people and just being able to like be around it. I'll tell you, it's the craziest thing. No matter what level you're on, when you go to a performance and people already know your words, like they actually are singing your stuff back, or like, I don't know, that to me, that's the best part. Like, not because they're singing my lyrics back, but it's because I know what my lyrics mean, and I know that they're obviously regurgitating what I said, so they know what I'm talking about. You know what I mean? That's the most important thing for me. Like when I see them recite, like that's crazy.
Yeah.
I would say, as far as impact, I have a positive and a negative on that. Positively, I'll quote like one of my friends who told me when I was posting pictures when I was performing in Istanbul out in Turkey, and he was like, gosh, man, I remember we was doing this for fun in school, and now hip hop has allowed you to travel the world. Hip hop has allowed you to see the world. Like hip hop music did that for you. And I was like, wow, that's true. I've been and done places and done things and been around people and experienced stuff that I don't think I ever would have if it wasn't for me being an artist and doing what I do. The negative impact is that the pursuit of the music business is the negative, I would say, about hip hop and so forth. It has lifted me up, but it has broken my heart over 1,000 times. Like, I mean, truly have broken my heart and broken my spirit like 1,000 times over and over, as far as the music business and the pursuit of trying to do your stuff. So those are like the two biggest impacts, positive and negative.
Okay, so I'm sorry, Kai, I was scrolling too quickly. I missed your question. So from the artists you both have been around, do you think they rap their truth or make up a lifestyle to sell hits?
I feel like it's like you got your creators and then you got your imitators. Like you got people that, like I said, they have the cosigns. They spent the time doing what they're talking about. But then once it gets on that marketable level, it starts selling. Then you have people saying like, oh, I want a part of that. So then you have people trying to replicate that and emulate that. And then you just start getting clones. The easiest way to say it, you just start getting industry clones. And once that starts happening, it becomes oversaturated. So then you do have people that are rapping about things they have no idea what they're talking about. It's just they're able to regurgitate the things that they've heard a million times from like almost studying the creators. You know what I'm saying? The originators, if that makes sense.
Gotcha.
Yeah, they become employees of the style. You have
Right.
the employers. So let's say you working for Coca-Cola, you invented Coca-Cola. So the Coca-Cola brand is your truth. It came from you. You created that. But then you have Coca-Cola employees, because Coca-Cola is selling, they can spit it. They can tell you everything about Coca as almost as if they created it, but they didn't. They just worked there. They know the brand that well. So that's kind of like how the music is. But around my experience and a lot of artists that I've been around, you would never believe a lot of these artists out here that are just like, they're not who they say they are. But there are some real ones, and you know who they are as soon as you run up on them. But a lot of them, I would say the majority of them, they're not rapping their truth. They're doing it to sell records because it's a music business,
And
and you
the
have
last
to
thing,
make sell records.
the last thing I'll touch on that too is the people that are doing what they really talking about, they start really getting in trouble. They start getting, so then all you have is the imitators. You know what I mean? So that's all you really have, because everybody else really locked up, or they really dealing with something they can't talk about. You know what I mean? Like they're restricted from.
Yeah.
So that happens too, where it's like you end up having way more emulators in the situation than like the originators, the original creators of the content.
Cool. So here's another question from Kyle and Sylvia. It's the same thing. How how have social justice movements shaped you and your work as artists? That's really a good question.
That's a good question, because I'll tell you the majority of my music is full of substance and trying to drive a message home and so forth. But don't nobody want to hear that shit. You know what I mean? As far as music
Right, music
business is concerned, like they're not gonna make any money off of that. So social justice could drive you, social justice movements and so forth. It'd be cool to shout it out when you're on your IG and you're on your live and you want to say, yeah, we need justice for this and this and that. But you're not gonna hear too much of that laced in the music, because it's gonna be on the bottom because it doesn't sell. Like Nipsey was like the last one. That's why it was such a tragedy when he got killed, because Nipsey was one of those ones who was definitely putting it in his music, but people was actually buying and listening and following it along with it. But for the most part, it doesn't sell. But from an artistic standpoint, it's reality rap. So in reality, if that's what your cause is, if that's what your movement is, I think Dylan spoke on about that a lot earlier. Like it's things that he's doing and so forth. It's tied to a lot of what he's saying. So that's how it helps shape you. Your reality is what shape your music. So if you're about social justice without music, that's what you're going to be about with the music as well, because it's just an expression.
Okay.
I think yeah, just to touch on that real quick is like, for instance, artists like 21 Savage, their music might not necessarily reflect social change, but they're still doing stuff like almost extracurricular, like back to school drives or like food drives that like kind of has their own message behind it. You know what I mean? It's like, if you're not going to talk about it in your music, at least they're using their resources to not just an Instagram post, but at least they're like doing something like a food drive or a back to school drive to make sure the kids in the community are eating and like having supplies and stuff like that. So
basically, people are using. They may not necessarily speak about it in the lyrics, in the music, but they're using their platform to actually elevate the knowledge of that. It's almost like
I don't see a problem with that. Honestly, I don't see a problem with that.
Right.
Me neither. I think that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah. Okay. So here's a question from Ms. Williams here. At one point, New York was known for being the Mecca of hip hop. When would you say Atlanta became the Mecca of hip hop?
He touched on that earlier. I'll let him.
Yeah. I would say it was around that time, man, like that 02 to 05 time where you had like Tip, Jeezy out. And then mind you, Wayne was always big. And Wayne was here in Atlanta for quite some time before he went down to Miami. But a lot of that drove that sound. So I say in between the trap, the crunk, and the snap music. That's when Atlanta just took over everything, and it became, unless you came out of Atlanta, you wasn't out. So think of the song. Let me tell you the songs around that time. You had T.I., of course, Dope Boys in the Trap, Rubber Band Man. You had Bone Crusher, Never Scared. You had like Young Bloods, If You Don't Give a Damn, We Don't Give a Fuck. Hey, you had that around that time. You had that's that Bone Crusher, Never Scared. You had Usher and Lil Jon. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah. You had Sierra, the Goodies, and all of that. Around that time you heard all of them songs, that's when Atlanta was just like, there was nothing topping it, and it took over from that point, and you never get it back. Like,
Right.
period.
And the destructive, like, I mean, kind of like, I know growing up, like, I always, like, it was either you listen to Pac or you listen to Big, and that's for me. I wasn't even coming from necessarily that generation. That's just from, like, how I was being exposed to music. So I feel like that split between the East and the West for a little bit just also gave room for the South to, like, really think about what they want to do and how to go about it. And it also happened naturally. I don't think the South realized what they had until they had it and it was really out. You know what I mean? Because Atlanta is still running, like, it's still, I don't even see when it's gonna slow up.
I don't see it either.
It's crazy.
No, but especially with artists like you guys. So Dandridge has a question here, and I don't know the answer to this. Says, do you think that cancel culture actually has an impact on the music industry? I don't know what cancel culture is. Does either of you know what that means?
So cancel culture is like something when somebody getting on you for something that you said like in the past or something like that. Like how Kevin Hart said something.
Yeah, about the gays,
about,
and then they took him off of the. Yeah.
I think hip hop music is more forgiving. They don't really give a shit. If you could say whatever you say, and then if the next song is hot, they don't care. It's just like, it's out of there.
Well, you think about you're talking about cancel culture. There was, I mean, not necessarily a hip hop artist, but I mean, you have Usher, not Usher. Usher with all of the stuff that he's going through. We still buy his records. I think what's his name? R. Kelly. People knew R. Kelly was doing that with young girls back in the day.
You know what's so crazy about the cancel culture? Is I feel like it increases the stream. It increases the attention. Because it's like when you're trying to cancel it, you got all these hashtags going on. You're just giving it so much exposure to where it's like, say for instance, you might not even know what people are talking about. So you were like, well, let me fill in the blanks. Let me figure out what these people are trying to cancel. So then you spend an hour or two on your phone trying to figure out what everybody's trying to cancel, but you just gave that time to what they're trying to cancel. So I feel like it's kind of counterproductive. I
think to your point, the closest one that would probably have been canceled is Kanye. Like when he was doing all the stuff with Trump or whatever, and it was like he kind of got canceled almost, and then he brought us back in with the Sunday service.
With the Sunday service.
Then we was right back.
We were right back.
He kind of got canceled, like not completely because he's so dope. Like it's just the music is so crazy. It's hard to push him out. He has that much of a presence and impact culturally that you can't really push him out, but he was kind of like the one where everybody was trying to cancel.
And that's the thing, though. That was the vibe, but it's like when you look at it from the business aspect, from where we're at now, it's like in terms of publicity, he was just talked about. It was just another thing to talk about. Because now we got Sunday service Kanye, we got all these, so it's kind of been outweighed. But if you look back, it was just a way to help the publicity situation.
Marketing, it's like he almost did it on purpose.
That's what's so crazy, and that's what's crazy about the industry is what's being used to market and sell. You know what I'm saying? Like,
because they marketed Jay-Z and Beyonce's turbulent relationship at the time to push Lemonade.
Yeah.
Like that's what all of that was about. The allowing us to see the elevator video, because if they didn't want that video to get out,
it wouldn't have
wouldn't have been out.
Beehive would have made sure it didn't get out.
Period. So that video got out on purpose for us to see that. All of this Becky with the long hair, well, who is now? It's a mystery. We want to find out who it is. All of this stuff, like, it led to the numbers that Lemonade did. Like,
it was like, was he really cheating, and did he really do it? You don't really know. We're gonna go on with Sadie has a question here. I'm gonna read it all because I love Sadie. My question is for both Mr. and Dylan. In our society, many people have heard that hip hop had a bad reputation. Although many artists have always used their platform as a way to advocate for different social justice movements, it seems that we are starting to see this advocacy more often. Do you think this bad reputation that hip hop has will change in the future, because we are seeing a lot of mainstream artists use their music as a platform to advocate what they believe in? We kind of touched on that a little bit earlier about how probably so we're going to let y'all answer that.
I think that's a great question, by the way. I think the only way that the reputation would change is if more people like Dylan, they become people that are in those positions in the media or in those positions in high ranking of authority and that pull out and roll out policies and control people that basically control the narrative, help control the narrative. If they become those hip hoppers, if the people that control the narrative are the hip hoppers, I'm not talking about the one that's just doing the music, but the ones that's actually in media and actually pushing policies, that's when the reputation would change. But until then, it's not going to change. It's always going to have the negative connotation to it, no matter what platform we're using to try to make it better for this and that. It's always going to have that bad rep. Why? Because misogynist music is not going to stop. All the negatives about the music is not going to stop because it's reality. So until you understand that and or have an understanding of that, you're always going to look at it as bad. And unfortunately, that's just a lot of people don't care to understand it. It's just been written off as to it's that type of music, and that's just what it's going to be.
Well, do you think that's similar to when rock and roll started, when they were like, "Oh, this is bad. This is going to make the Aja and I was in my Music 100 class. We talked about rock and roll and how it was the it was a protest music in a sense.
I remember that. But then rap music took over the rock and roll.
Right. So what I'm saying is, as far as the mindset of that, this is going to infect the young generation to do bad things. Like blues music talked about sex, and then rock music. You had Elvis out there with his hip shaking and stuff, and the conservatives were like, "Oh my God, this is going to affect this generation of people." So when hip hop started, you had the same scenario. Like these lyrics are this and that. This is not real music anyway. So I kind of look at it in a sense like every style of music. I think that not every style, every musical period that started was in protest to the previous one. So it was like, no, we don't want to listen to this type of music, or we have something to say in protest to the way the government's treating us, to subsidize housing, to crack in our neighborhoods. So we're going to talk about what's in so basically a protest in a sense. So I want to keep going with the questions because I don't want to run out of time. And our class is supposed to be from 1 to 4, but we're not going to be here that long. I want y'all know that because I've run out of coffee and I'm already so. It's easy to lose your unique sound in music. In your personal music, have you found a staple that's your signature?
Yeah, as far as content, the way you stay unique is you just stay you. I mean, it's so overused. But really, if you just be yourself, because there's only one you, everyone is definitely unique. In the beginning, I definitely didn't have a unique sound. It was whoever I was influenced by. Like my favorite group was A Tribe Called Quest. And so a lot of my verses and music and sounds would sound like your typical Tribe Called Quest, Roots. Nas was my favorite artist as well. So you would hear a lot of that influence. But outside of that, I think that what makes you apart as far as your unique and as far as your sound, it could be directly the producers that you're working with and a particular niche that you have with that producer, or it could be your actual content that you're talking about, your substance and what you bring to the table. That's what it separates you and make you unique. So I think I found a staple with more of my content and my substance approach as opposed to an actual sound, like I'm rapping fast or I'm rapping slow or I got this high pitch or this low draggy voice. It's not, I don't have any of that. It's just my approach with content would be my unique sound.
What about you, Dylan?
My staple is how I like to full package everything. So it's like I might be a rapper, but it's like I'm creative business wise. I'm creative with my videos. Like if I have a song, I package the whole song. I feel like that's my staple. It's like my rollouts, like the way I get my content out. It's like it's so strategic that like that's what people be like, dang, I like the way he did that. You know what I mean? Because it's like he found the right time to drop that song, or like he had the right artwork to go with that song, and that song had the right beat to go with the right lyrics. It's like my packaging. I feel like that's my staple. Like, and I feel like that's what people pay attention to. Because like sometimes I might drop a project or a song and people are talking about the artwork sometimes more than the song, because the artwork might just be so out there, you know what I mean? Or like they might just talk about the beat rather than anything else, cause the beat, you know what I mean? But that's what I like. I just like packaging things. That's my staple in like.
Got you. Sylvia has a question for Mr. Do you think you would still be interested in music and involved in the music industry if you weren't living in Atlanta? Where else would you go? I mean, like.
Well, when I was living in Virginia at the time, so it's either you're gonna go to New York or you're gonna go to Atlanta. And being in this music industry for so long, once I got in the industry, I found out that it's like this big. It's not big at all. Everyone it's either LA, Atlanta, or New York. That's it. You can go to LA, and I promise, if you're in a music circle, you're gonna see the same person that you just saw in Atlanta like a week ago at a studio over there. You go to New York, you'll see the same person you just saw out in LA. It's super big. You're connected. Like, if you don't know this person, the person standing next to you and that person knows that person. It's like you're not far. That's why it's easy to get blackballed, because everyone knows everybody as far as inside the music industry, as far as who you're next to and all of that. So if I wasn't in Atlanta, I think I would have found myself somewhere. I would have made it happen regardless. I promise. I was going to Florida A&M and Tallahassee, and I was down there going crazy with it. And there was no music scene there in Tallahassee, but I was still doing shows, performing on campus, around locally, ended up going to Jacksonville, Tampa, performing. So it didn't matter. So I think regardless where I was at that particular time, I would have made it happen anywhere. But luckily, I came to Atlanta and it happened here.
Well, another thing too is that you were in Petersburg, right?
Yeah.
So y'all, if you know about Virginia, Petersburg, it's tiny. So, I mean, and the only big thing there is Virginia State University, my alma mater. Shout out to VSU Trojans. So leaving that, coming here, going to Atlanta, like I'm still in Atlanta, going to Atlanta was probably a huge thing. So we're going to go on to, this is from Destiny. We'll ask Dylan first. Do you feel that you were supported by your family when you chose this career field? And if not, what helped? If not, then what helped you overcome not having the support of your family?
Well, you know me personally, so you know I have my grandmother.
Yeah.
But what people also don't know about me is before, like, my grandmother came a predominant role in my life, I was in foster care. So in the beginning, I didn't necessarily have all the support in the world. But once I got back with my grandmother in like my high school years, I was able. She was standing with me outside open mics. I'm talking. It could be a school night, given like high school situations. It could be a school night, 11:59, about to turn midnight, and my grandmother's right there standing with me, about to go into the open mic.
That's dope.
Yeah, for sure. And I got my mom. You know, my mom put me a lot. That's what's so crazy. My mom played Tupac in the car. I used to actually, I'm not even gonna lie, I used to be embarrassed to listen to hip hop as a kid because my mom was just playing stuff in the car. We would be riding around and she'd be rapping every word. So it was like, not because I resented the music, I just like, I'd be like, oh my God, like I put my face down because she really rapping her heart out. You know what I mean? Like, but then it got to the point where I'm right there rapping with her. So like, in terms of my family always been supportive of me and the music. But at the same time, they still like they just want whatever works for me as an individual too.
Okay.
So
I will say that Dylan's grandmother, definitely, he is telling the truth. She was really there. Mister, what about you?
My family, absolutely not, bro. Like, yo, they found some of my tapes or something. Like, look, tapes.
Oh, yeah.
Right. They found some of my stuff. They breaking it, throwing it in the trash.
Nah, let's be honest.
Devil music. I was listening to Ice Cube, and you know, and you know, it wasn't that bad. Naughty by Nature.
You got to see it from my perspective. Like Mr. Robinson, like or Dr. Rob now.
Dr. Robinson.
Look. He gave me those positions to perform like at school. So my grandmother seeing me in those like school environments, it made it more surreal for her. Like, and then she saw the reaction to the crowd, and it wasn't like a crowd of like people like me. It's like the principals, it's the teachers. They're all standing clapping. I think situations like that as a child made them take it more serious. You know what I mean? So that's why hats off to you, because it's like that definitely made it more easy. You know what I'm saying?
I appreciate
Man,
that.
not at all. Like I had to sneak and listen, sneak and rap, go to my friend's house to do it. Like I had to lie saying I'm going to the movies, but I'm actually going to like a showcase. Like yeah,
Community center down the street.
it wasn't until years later to where I was really doing it here in Atlanta, and they came to visit the city, and they actually showed up to one of my events. They came into the building with a bunch of smoking and drinking and cussing, and my parents is like pastor and first lady of the church, so it was weird.
It was weird.
And they came in there and they saw me perform, and I performed. I threw like every Bible verse I could think of in my rap freestyle just to impress them. And then they saw the whole audience go crazy for me. And it was like, hey, so what you're doing is you're really good, huh? And I was just like, yeah, I told you, I just what I've been doing. So they went and saw 8 Mile, and they called me after they saw 8 Mile. I was like, hey, we just saw the movie with the Eminem fella, and he looked like he was doing what you was just doing up there. So if he could do it, can't you go out here too and get these millions that he making? And I was thinking, like, it don't work like that.
No.
Man.
No, we grew up in a house where we had chores. We had chores to do, and we had to. Our parents were very strict. Our dad was military, so every Sunday night we had to have a fashion show to show them this is what I'm wearing on Monday. Go back and change. This is what I'm wearing on Tuesday. Go back and change. This is what I'm wearing on Wednesday. And then if you didn't, and my dad would remember like what you said. That's not what you said you're gonna wear on Tuesday, you know. And then my brother and I, we shared a room. And we knew that my sister was going to be the longest to wake up. So my dad would come and knock on the door to wake us up, go down the hall. We knew we had at least about 10 or 15 more minutes to lay down because she was going to take forever to get out of bed. And so we would get back in bed. So we had a really strict home life. And there was
not supported at all.
Three major areas: the living room, kitchen, and bathroom. Each one of us had to take one of those every week. It was crazy. But I mean, it helped us to mature and grow. We knew how to make those beds really nice and tight, but we could not listen to. I don't think we did. I think the only enjoyment that we had was going to the skating rink.
Yeah, that's it.
But then we had that big old station wagon, that the Brady Bunch station wagon with the seat that faced the back window. Yeah. And our dad would drop us off at the skating rink in that ugly old car with the two-tone horn, and he would blow the horn, wah, wah.
Bumping gospel music.
We're like, drop us off at the corner, and we'll call you when we're ready to go. You know, that kind of thing. I remember the time I was a sidebar. And it was at Ellison High School, and I was at a school dance, and we out there just jamming. You know, that was when Push Salt and Pepper. We out there dancing, and then my mom was like, she wanted me to be ready like 10 o'clock or whatever. Here it is now. After 10 o'clock, I'm on the dance floor just jerking at the dance, and then the sound guy got on the speaker was like, Craig Robertson, your mama's outside. And I was like, I was so embarrassed. I just kept dancing. You know what? Whatever. And then all of a sudden, I was like, this party lame. I'm finna go. You know, trying to fake. And so my mom outside, did I tell you to be outside? You know, just going off. I was like, oh my God, this is so bad. You know, so that's the kind of house that we grew up in. So we couldn't do much of anything like that. I think we had to. We used to record the songs off the radio on the tape. Y'all know nothing about that. Y'all too young. So anyway,
we had to sneak and do it. It wasn't allowed.
Yeah. So here's another. Is there a difference between having a management label and a music label? For example, QC is at the management label, and their artists can have their own label to sign people, or even use Rock Nation as an example.
Yeah, definitely. It's just the functions. It's just functions. So management label, they will handle a little more of representation and helping organize your brand and your artistry and so forth. The music label, they're doing a whole lot more than that. They're doing, they're helping in the creative process of actually your project and so forth. They're helping with the marketing of it, and they're actually housing it, and they actually own it. So if you're on a music label, they kind of have more of the leverage as far as determining everywhere that you're going to go, where management, they actually just kind of just speaking only primarily on your behalf. So you can be part of a music label that functions as both. They're their label and your manager, or it can be the example that you picked is like Rock Nation. Yeah, you can be signed to a totally different label, but the person that is managing your business and managing your brand and helping you propel and get you to these doors and these levels, that's more of management style from Roc Nation. So you don't have
So,
to.
so if I'm understanding this right, the management is basically your spokesperson.
Yeah, and the person that is kind of let's say like your agent per se.
Okay.
Like your agent. So you could be signed, let's just use sports. You could be signed to the Los Angeles Lakers, which would be the organization, the label, but then your agent would be like your manager that's gonna, leverage your brand to, hey, we might want to go to the New York Knicks next. You know what I mean?
So they're the in between you and the label.
Strictly your representation, like period. Your label is the engine that is pushing your stuff out there. The management is kind of like the person that's steering that whole thing. So you can have both on the same label, or it could be separate. QC, they have both. They definitely have both, because I think they're just managing Cardi B, and she's signed to another label. But it's like a management type of thing. And Roc Nation, they have artists, and they're just like Roc Nation, they're managing Meg Thee Stallion now, but she's actually signed to like 300 and another label, independent label out of Texas.
Okay, Avery has a question. Well, not question. He said, please define trap. And we talked about this earlier, so we can give us a brief little synopsis again. He said, I've seen multiple conflicting definitions. I know that in my research, they did have trap as an actual acronym, right? Does anybody remember what the acronym is? Come on, Katie.
True rhythm and something else. I don't remember
Poetry.
the IP.
Who said something?
Poetry.
True rhythm and poetry.
They gave it an acronym. That's cute.
Yeah, but see, I think like
trap is just hood music. Like, let's just cut to the chase. Trap is hood. Period. When you go to the trap, when you go in there trying to get a bag of weed or something,
say that like when you go to the trap, you feel me?
You get trapped in there. You will get trapped in there because it's only one way in, one way out. That's trap. And what they doing in there? They hustling drugs, and that's period. Trap music is street music. It's straight dope boy street music. That's trap, simple and plain. And I think acronyms, true rhythm and poetry. That's cute.
But wait, no, but you think about it, like true rhythm and poetry, when we talk about the word, and I agree with you. I think we have to put acronyms and stuff so
as a scholar, you got to start doing academic, right? But
that's where I was going with that. See, you're thinking like me. That's why you my child. But I was going to say, when it says the word true in it, that means, to me, I think of it as this is authentic. This is raw. This is true. It's true. You know what I mean? Like.
But then that you can't say that, because there's a lot of other true rap. Like you have an artist that's not trap, but it's still true. Rhythm and poetry is still true.
I'm trying to help it make sense, but I guess I'm not doing it.
No, because trap. Don't try to make it cute. True rhythm and poetry. No, that's cute. Trap is hood music. It's straight street music that you're going to hear in the streets. You want to know what trap music is? Come to Atlanta and go to Zone 6, Zone 4, Zone 3, go to Bankhead, go to these hoods, and then you'll find out, oh, this is trap.
Wait, which zone was I living in College Park?
College Park, Zone 3.
I was in the hood. Which zone was I living in East Point?
That's still
3? That's still 3?
It's close. Zone 3.
I'm gonna tell y'all something.
It's police zones. It's police precinct zones.
Tell these people who my house was connected to. Do you remember?
Okay, so
my backyard, the fence. What's on the other side of my back?
My brother lived in the SWATs. They call that area the SWATs. That's Southwest Atlanta. Too strong. Like he's.
People that don't think I'm good.
You kind of was in the hood.
Was in the hood.
He was off.
I got broke into and everything.
He's off Campbellton Road out there. That's a hood area, but it's also under gentrification. It was also a nice little hood too. Tyler Perry Studios is in his backyard.
It's right. I could hop the fence and I could have been in the next Tyler Perry Madea movie.
You hop the fence and literally be in Tyler Perry Studios. So that's true. But before Tyler Perry got there, that was a military base surrounded by nothing but traps.
And Dylan, where we went to school at Sandy Creek in Fayette County, there was a movie a movie studio that was
Pinewood. It's still
down there that really pushed Atlanta into movie making industry. So
Pinewood Studios, they shoot all the Marvel movies.
Yeah, right down the street from where we went to school, where I taught.
Yeah.
So this last one here, and then we're gonna wrap this thing up. So Avery, I hope that answered the question. So trap, we as Dylan said, we use that true rhythm and poetry for academia purposes.
But the main thing he's trying to stress is it's beauty of the struggle, but it's not pretty. You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
Like that's what I feel like he was trying to get off, is like these realities that these people are coming from and talking about. It's not pretty. Like, not trying to exaggerate this, but somebody in the lifestyles that we live. Because I try and come off in these type of environments, scholarly and etc. But at the end of the day, I'm still an artist. I'm still doing the things that I'm talking about. I have a friend that just passed away 2 days ago, who lived in the same place that you were just talking about where you stayed. So it's like the things we're talking about right now is real. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's a reality. So it's like it's not pretty, but that's what, when you start getting these people that do start finding success from that sound, that's when it's beauty of the struggle, because it's like what they came from, what they like, the positions they put themselves in. You know what I mean? I don't know. That's why. So from a scholarly perspective, you could use that acronym, but like in general, it's like you just got to understand that it's not all. It's just not, because that's what it's portrayed as: money, it's girls, but in reality, it's really grit and grain, and it's grinding, and it's dog eat dog. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, every area in this country has a trap.
Right.
Every area has a trap. Every city, every state, and it's that place where it's a lot of poverty there, and there's people there that are doing whatever to get out of there, to just survive. Now, I know it ain't legal, and people are just doing what they have to do. Those areas, and you know them. Everybody on this Zoom knows those areas, where you're from, wherever you come from. You know where your traps are. You know what it is. So that's what.
Well, let's put that to the test. I want you to type your trap area in the chat.
Yeah, type the traps.
So what does that mean? That's where the drugs are prevalent, where you can, like, what was that across the street from the Georgia Dome? What was that place across the street from the Georgia Dome before they you can walk down the street and see.
Oh, you talking about the Bluff?
The Bluff.
The Bluff.
Yeah.
You can see crackheads out there. You can see crack pipes.
Ooh, Baltimore City.
On the
Oh my
ground.
gosh, Baltimore City. That's a trap.
On the ground. Belcourt, Baltimore City.
South Houston. Y'all been to South Houston? Let me tell you. Yeah. See, these are trap. Newport. Who know about Bad News? Kayla. Bad news.
Bad news.
Bad news. That's the trap. Southeast DC. Yeah. See, y'all know.
Culpeper. Sylvia, really? Culpeper.
Y'all know what's up.
Culpeper.
Heroin, cocaine.
Shy ain't wrote nothing about Stanton on there. Where the traps at in Stanton, Shy?
Look at that P-Town C Block S. Oh,
you'll find that in Waynesboro.
Oh, the trap in Waynesboro? There's no trap in Stanton?
I mean, yeah, but you
really?
You mostly see it in Waynesboro.
Oh, yeah, P-Town. Dan, what you know about P-Town? Sit down.
West Tampa, Sulphur Springs, Belmont Heights. Yeah, Tampa definitely got some traps in Tampa.
Yeah, man.
I'm from the 757. What do you mean what I know about P-Town?
Oh, P-Town, bad news. Hey, where you went, to Bethel?
No. No.
What school you went to?
I live in Williamsburg, sadly.
Oh, that's what's up. It's all good. So you made it out.
She made it out.
Made it out.
She made it out.
Bad news, Newport News. That's where Allen Iverson and Michael Vick from.
Yes.
And that's where, like, yeah. Hey, look, it's some. I know about those streets right there.
Way to trap at in Daytona.
Oh, you know where it is? Orange. Over there off Orange Street.
Orange Avenue.
Orange Avenue down there.
Yes, sir. PPU.
Yeah, it's
project
everywhere.
Yeah.
It's
And you know what? I never. That's interesting you brought that up because I never really thought about that. Like sometimes we think about the trap is only in those metropolitan areas, and what Sylvia just brought up about even in Culpeper as a smaller area, there's still traps.
Mm-hmm.
Those areas that what's Brandon Town, Avery? West Oakwood, is that down there in Louisiana? Where you from? Alabama? Where you from?
Yeah,
Okay, that's
Yeah,
what's
man.
in Huntsville.
in Huntsville.
Basically,
It's amazing that that's interesting to me.
yo,
Like
Huntsville, yo, we did a show in Huntsville. Huntsville is stupid. We went there and a fight broke out while we was on stage. I got that actually on video, and they had
where's
the
that? Where's that? Avery want to see it.
I got it. I'm gonna
Avery and I
pull it
want
up.
to see it.
I gotta piece it up because it was stupid. I was like, man, they wilding in Huntsville. Who would have known?
Avery was probably at that show. So,
Yeah.
so let me tell y'all. So one last two things. Jelani's question. I'm gonna tell y'all a story about Mr. One time we were going to show him and DeBrat. It was Brat's birthday. You probably remember this. This was years ago. I don't even remember where we were. He was like, you should come to this show. Okay, I'm gonna come to the show. It was on a Sunday night. I'll never forget it.
Yeah.
I had went to church because I'm a good church boy. I went and took communion at church and praised the Lord. And I said, I'm gonna go to this show tonight to support my brother. Man, he's like, we're gonna be there. The show started. I don't even know what time the show started, but I got there like 12 midnight because I'm thinking, that's when the club get to popping at 12, right? I show up, Mr. and Brat nowhere to be found. I'm still here's now, 12:30, 1 o'clock. Call Mr. We on our way. You on your way? I got to be to work at 7:30 in the morning. What you mean you on your way? So here it is, 1:30, 2 o'clock, 2:30. I'm like, what in the world is going on? I'm still there, right? So next thing you know, I'm scared because, I'm here by myself and, I'm not knowing what's going on. And so Mr. tell me, when we get there, grab my hand and don't let go because we're going to go to the back. Remember that night? So then I hear this commotion. Like people like, they start cheering and clapping and yelling and screaming and stuff. And here come Brad and Mr. and the whole entourage coming through. And he see me grab my arm and we going through this crowd of people. It was crazy. I had never experienced anything like that in my life. So then we went somewhere upstairs. It was Brad's birthday. And they were popping bottles upstairs. And next thing you know, we went backstage. I'm standing on the side wings. They out there doing their show. It had to have been like 3 o'clock in the morning by the time they performed. And I'm like, dude, as soon as they dropped the mic, I'm like, I got to go home. I went home and went to bed.
That's the life.
That to me was like, how do you continue that kind of lifestyle? Like,
and it's dangerous too, man. You go to some of these places, man, and everybody in there pistoled up. You don't see nothing but guns and rags. A lot of gang banging culture in the industry too. And you go into a lot of these places, it can be scary too. It could be fun when you're on stage, but when you're off that stage in these venues and these environments, it can be real scary too because it's a lot of these. Hip hop music. It's a lot of dog eat dog world. And it's very aggressive, and it's survival of the fittest, and everybody comes in there with that attitude. So it's not a lot of, let me run up on you and get an autograph and hug type stuff in when you're in those circles. It could be scary too. Scary stuff.
That time when you was somewhere and you called me and you was like, hey, somebody's on the phone, or you called me, you was like, guess who walking up? And I was like, who? You was like, Whitney Houston.
Oh yeah.
Like, hold the phone up. He held the phone up like, Whitney! I'm just yelling on the phone. She couldn't really hear me, but so when you go back talking about like it's a small industry and people know people, that's 6 degrees of separation kind of thing. Like you were right there. Somebody that knew Whitney Houston. Like we talked about this, like we can get to know the Obamas when they were president because our dad is military. So he has connections within the military ranks to get us to do. So you just really, really, really never know that kind of stuff. So this is our last question and we're going to get off of here. This is for Mr. Do you think the deaths of both Tupac and Biggie made way for the South to have such a huge rise in hip hop? In what way might the industry be different if the East-West Coast beefs didn't happen? Wow. That's good.
That's a great question. And that's a question that's always been asked a lot and talked about too. I do think that the East Coast, West Coast beef made way for the South to come up. Going back to that Source Awards, that's a prime example. The East and West was beefing at that Source Award. The same one when Outkast went up there and Dre said South got something to say. That was the same Source Awards that Suge went up there and said to Diddy and all of that, dancing in the videos, all of that type of stuff. That was the same one.
Yeah, I remember that.
And so while the East Coast and West Coast beefing and taking each other out, kind of like with this negative type of energy that was going on, the South was creeping up at the time with a whole new sound that ain't nobody ever heard before. And it kind of kicked off with your Suave House and 8 Ball MJG. And then you had your Ghetto Boys Rap a Lot type thing. And then, to be honest with you, the thing that really kicked off the South was No Limit. When No Limit came, with the No Limit Soldiers and Master P and all of them, Sook the Shaka, Make You Say, all of that. Once No Limit came and took it, then Atlanta jumped in with it, and it was over from there. And people got tired of all the negative stuff with the East Coast and West Coast. So I don't know what it would be like if the beefs didn't happen. I really can't say. Maybe New York still would have had it if the beefs didn't happen, because those beefs actually divided people within their own like coast. And it wasn't even an East Coast, West Coast beef to begin with. It was just two people, and then the media made it a whole coast against that
Right,
coast.
the media.
And so forth. The media did that. And we can go here all day, and if we can get to the conspiracy theories as to why that happened. But I think short answer is, yep, I think the Tupac and Biggie deaths definitely made a way for the South to come up.
Well, I really appreciate the two, my family coming on here for free.
I have a question though, real quick.
Okay.
Out of everybody that's on the call, like I know Dylan is an artist. Who else on here is an artist, aspiring artist who is trying to pursue the music business? If anybody on here, anybody that's doing that on here?
Geneva.
I am Geneva.
Yeah.
So is Geneva a singer? Rapper?
Geneva's a singer. Cheyenne is a singer. Yeah, they're both music majors.
So they're trying. Okay, now there's a difference. Like, I know people that are into music, love music, and they do it. But who's trying to pursue a music career? Like, they want to get in this music business. Who's seriously trying to do that on this call?
If I can,
your Geneva is
Geneva for me. I think. Well, we talked about artist management a little bit with Geneva outside of performing, but Shy, he plays instruments, sings, writes. He all right when he's not laying in bed during our conference calls, but yeah, they're pretty solid musicians at what they know.
Well, this what I wanted to say. I don't want.
Let me just shout out another student. He's not on the call because he has to work. Maxwell, Max. Yeah, I'm gonna send you some stuff, Dylan and Mr. with Max, because he's really good. He actually he's built a studio in his dorm.
Dope.
He's very, very serious. Shy's done some work in his studio, right?
Yes.
Thanks.
Okay.
So yeah, I was gonna because Max is gonna watch this later on. So yeah, Max is another one that's definitely.
Yeah.
He has videos out, stuff already too.
Well,
he's very good.
He's very good. Max is very good.
Yeah.
Dope. Well, what I wanted to say is it's easier now to kind of express yourself and put your music out creatively and everything. With all of the technology, they really made it an even playing field for everybody, for all artists. I mean, really, you can just get on DistroKid and just put your stuff up unlimited amount of times each year. They've made it easy. It's not hard anymore. So I want to say that when I kind of came in, when I say they kind of broke my heart 1,000 times over, is because this music business is very shrewd. People have no really regard for your artistry, for your creativity, as far as what you're bringing in, as far as your passion. So I want to just say, don't let that discourage you. Keep pushing forward and remain true to yourself. I did get caught up in let me just start making some stuff that I think they want to hear that will probably sell to kind of get me in to do this and to do that. I did get caught up into that and kind of lost my way with my approach in music and so forth. So that unique sound thing kind of took a longer route to get to, because I'm trying to do what the music business wants me to do. I say stay true to yourself and true to whatever your style is. If somebody say, oh, that's not going to work, so what? Stick with that and keep going with it, because that uniqueness is what's going to make you stand out and stand the test of time. And embrace yourself, because there's some rude people in this business. There's people that really are cutthroat, have hidden agendas, looking out for their own best interests. So have a good team around you, people that really care about you. It's good to have a support team that's with you, that's going to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. And always read everything before you sign it. Don't sign anything without having an attorney look at it. And those are the things that you should be looking into. Also, copyright your music. As soon as you've written something, as soon as you record it, protect yourself, copyright it, and set up your publishing like ASAP. And you'll be good. But hey, you could pass my information along to anybody who may need some help with that. As far as resources, information, anything you may need, you can email. Matter of fact, I'll put my email in this chat right here, and then you could just email me with any questions that you may have about
Dylan,
that.
you put your did you put your social media stuff in your?
Yeah, I have put it in there. You just gotta scroll up in the chat.
Okay, well, I'll make sure that we all share it. I am so, yeah, I ain't gonna say too much more about this, but I'm so happy today this was very helpful for me as an educator, and I hope it's been informative for you. We were originally supposed to go down to Atlanta to watch some shows, and Mr. had talked about this, but because of the pandemic and all that kind of stuff, we had to cancel plans to do all that kind of stuff. But
yeah, definitely when things clear up, if maybe down the line we could set it up, and I can we come to Atlanta and we can do a tour. I can take you to a couple studios where a lot of artists have recorded, and you can kind of see the process in there and everything, and a couple landmarks and stuff like that around here. That'd be cool once things open.
Well, unfortunately, this is a one-time thing. So
okay.
We have one more week of this class, and that's it. It's only a 3-week term. But unless they want to do a part 2 of this class, and we go down to Atlanta next May term, but I doubt it.
Much success to all of y'all. Appreciate y'all time on here. I'm really looking forward to what y'all bringing to the table and what y'all gonna do out here in the world. You're very attentive to everything that we had to say today, so appreciate your time as well. And hey, be great.
Be great.
Thank you all. Thank you all. Be great.
Dylan?
Yeah, I want to say I appreciate everybody for listening, and I appreciate like it was a conversation. Like we were able to go back and forth. It wasn't like somebody was just speaking and rambling for hours. You know what I mean? It's like I appreciate the responses and stuff. And 2, we live in a world where we can all stay connected. I mean, we don't have to get to know each other, but in terms of just artists support artists. So when Mr. had put his stuff in the chat, I already followed him on the Instagram and stuff. So I'm gonna make sure we stay connected. And that goes for anything. Anybody trying to just have support, that's the day and age we live in. We can all stay connected. Just hit follow and follow back. So
Well, I appreciate that.
right.
I really appreciate that, and I think that we all appreciate that. You know, we got to do the hand sign to that, but we very excited that we're coming to the close of our term. Thank God. But we don't do the Zooms often. This is only our second one. And I wanted to make sure that we had some FaceTime with people that do this on a regular basis. And it just so happened that you had written that paper. I'm glad I saw that on your Snap. So
I know we had spoke about something when I was in New York a couple months ago. But everything's timing.
Yeah. So Dylan, send me that paper if you don't mind. I would love to read it. I would love to read it. So
I want to read it too.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. I got your email right there, so I'll email it to you.
Oh.
All right, everybody, before we all dismiss, because I know that you don't check your emails often, some of you have not turned in some work. Please make sure that you turn in the work. There's discussion 1 and 2 that are closed now. And I think I sent your email about discussion 2. If you have not completed discussion 2, you need to email it to me now. Yes, I saw that, Cheyenne, at 4 a.m. You're going to be getting a phone call from me shortly. Make sure that you look at the the next thing that we're doing, Mr. and Dylan, is looking at the lyrics and the video, dissecting This Is America.
Right.
Childish Gambino piece. So we're going to be looking at that, discussing that, and all the little pieces in it that has something to do with social justice and that kind of stuff. So it's going to be pretty dope. And then each student has to pick a Atlanta-based artist and find a song that has a social justice or civil rights movement piece to it, and present a presentation, some type of presentation. We can't write papers. We don't have enough time to do all that kind of stuff. I could, I just don't read them. But a project. So if you have any suggestions for artists in Atlanta that really have that social justice drive, like I know T.I. has a podcast dealing with some social justice stuff.
Killer Mike.
To jump on it right now, Killer Mike.
Killer Mike. Hey, I just put some in the chat. Go listen to all y'all. Google it. Listen to Goody Mob Cell Therapy and have a great time following that group.
Yeah, amen.
That's one of the best albums of all time, soul food. And that song right there particularly is what's going on right now. And they did that song like in 95.
Right.
And you listen to that, it's what's up right now. So yeah, just check out that record. Okay. So if you think of anybody else, just put it in the chat, and then, or you can just call and tell me, I'll tell them. So you all, firsthand knowledge right here. Firsthand information right here. So so when we get ready for those course evaluations and professor evaluations, I should be at the top of that list.
Oh, yeah, go crazy.
That's right. Play with it. All right. All right, y'all. I'm going to get off of here because it's time for lunch. And I love you all madly, as a professor would say to me. Dylan, don't forget to shoot me that email. Mister, I'm going to call you. And I think I'm going to probably be a blessing to your Cash App. So you send me your Cash App, Dylan. And I'm going to send you a little something. Mister, I might send you something. This is going to be either Christmas gift or this Cash App. So you decide. All right. So, class, let's thank them for being here. And I'm going to upload this to our Blackboard so you can review it again. And questions, comments, concerns before we get going. This was fun. Thanks again.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It was a great opportunity.
Yeah. Maybe another time we'll bring you guys to campus and do a whole panel with the whole campus next time.
Yeah, because I was going to mention that earlier. I had, before this coronavirus situation happened at Georgia State, the African American Studies Department, they had a forum on hip hop, and it was a lot of the things that we were just discussing. So it was like, it was cool to see the same things that we were touching on was the same things that the conference was speaking on. So
I saw the advertisements for that, and I wish I could have made it. That would have been really dope if we could have gone down there as a class.
Yeah, that would have been a good time. Yeah.
Maybe we can bring that conference here.
Hey,
we should talk about it.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm gonna email you and I'll send you a text too.
Okay, son. All right, y'all. I'm getting off of here. I'll talk to y'all later. Enjoy the rest of your day. All right, later.